I enter not into Nirvana by means of being, of work, of individual signs. I enter into Nirvana when the Vijnana which is caused by discrimination ceases. So there's a wonderful picture, a frontispiece at the beginning of Professor Suzuki's translation of the Lankavatara Sutra. It's a picture of Bodhidharma, who's strongly associated with this text, and he's the first Zen patriarch of China. His origins aren't clear. He might have come from the south of India, or he might have even been a Persian monk. But this portrait at the beginning of Professor Suzuki's book, I'll see if I can show him, was painted by Sishu, who lived between 1420 and 1506. So I think we can be fairly confident that this is not a historical likeness. I really appreciate this picture because we would assume that Bodhidharma is enlightened and that therefore this is a picture of an enlightened one. But if you didn't know this, would you consider this person to be enlightened? He looks a little bit anxious, a little bit shifty, a little bit worried. He's looking out the corner of his eye. Is this enlightenment? Is this the sign of enlightenment? What's the connection between that picture of Bodhidharma and the wonderful golden Buddhas we have? I remember when I was a spiritual seeker, I was looking for somebody who had the answers. Or so I told myself. I was looking for a superhero. I was looking for somebody who exhibited extraordinary qualities and maybe even supernormal powers. Because if they're enlightened, then surely supernormal powers would be no big deal. And of course their behaviour should be without reproach, because they're perfected beings. And just to be in the presence of a being would nudge me into enlightenment on a rocket ship of bliss. Yeah, that's the sort of guru I wanted. I wanted one that fitted a certain picture, a certain preconception. And I wasn't the only one. There are many people who had this idea, and there are many people who believed they'd found such a guru. And it could be an incredible buzz, especially if you were a foreigner in India, the home of spiritual wisdom. It was a buzz that you could be swept along with, and it was on the basis of that buzz that you connected with other people, and you entered into the psychodynamic of the group around the guru. This has absolutely nothing to do with spiritual understanding. The trouble is, we are looking for something out there. We might read the guru's books, we might find them inspiring and so on, but that was mainly just fueling our connection with the guru, which probably wasn't there, because all we really had was a connection with the group. The connection with the guru would have been an imaginary one, unless you're one of the few fortunate ones who was in the inner circle close to the guru, which I never was, much to my credit. So yes, the guru is something we focus on, no matter how much the guru might say. You must be an individual and enlightened to yourself and to look within. Yes, that was all very good, but we were in love with the guru. The guru is the focus of our attention. Now this might be wonderful in many ways. It's wonderful to be in love and all the rest of it, but this takes us away from our true reality. It puts our emotional centre outside of ourselves. And this is no good for anybody. This is never a good thing. And exactly the same thing applies to notions of nirvana. We should not invest in any notion of nirvana. So what does the Buddha say here? The context for the spiritual seeker is that they're ostensibly looking for enlightenment, for nirvana. They're looking for the path to nirvana. And the assumption is the Guru is laying down the path to nirvana. So if you put the teachings into practice, you'll get to nirvana. And there may be various levels involved, various degrees, various levels of initiation you have to go through in order to become a valid candidate for nirvana. You might have to meditate. You might have to practice certain precepts, moral precepts. You might have to live in a particular way, a particular lifestyle. But the Buddha's not having any of that. I enter not into nirvana by means of being. In other words, it doesn't matter how pure you are of work. It doesn't matter how hard you try and the things that you do, of individual signs. It doesn't matter how wonderful you appear, how charismatic you are. The only way you enter into nirvana is when the Vijnana, which is caused by discrimination, ceases. This is the discriminating mind, which we've been concerned with up to now. The discriminating mind is simply the mind which thinks it knows what's what, the mind that detects patterns and labels them. And when this is done in the name of spirituality, it's a very difficult one to get out of. The discriminating mind knows what is spiritual and what is not. We have nothing to do with that. So to any spiritual seekers out there who are looking at this video and wondering about this Guru Gillis, who are wondering where my bliss is, where this wonderful radiant charisma is which is going to catalyze enlightenment in you. Well, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm just a very ordinary person leading a relatively ordinary life. I have my ups and downs. I have my psychology, which I would regard as rather damaged. However, I'm in touch with something extraordinary. I appreciate something here, something in these extraordinary texts. And I appreciate this. Not because I'm pure, not because I have any special qualities. I'm simply stating what is obvious, that these texts, these Hindu and Buddhist texts which originated in India, are extraordinary documents. They are pointing us to something extraordinary, something transcendental, which is our essential nature. So I can relate to that shiftiness in Sishu's portrait of Bodhidharma. That shiftiness is regard to the world, to what you believe. He's saying, oh, you believe that, do you? You believe this, you believe that. He's not having anything to do with it. He's not having anything to do with your beliefs about how the world is, about what spirituality is, about what nirvana is. I suppose the Enlightenment practitioner is pure in one sense. And perhaps there is one quality they have. They're good at detecting bullshit. And they're relatively free of it.